Hello and welcome back to Dish Shelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to be talking about Drift by L.T. Ryan and Brian Shea. Let me read what they put on here about it. Ex-Army criminal investigator Rachel Hatch is a drifter. No home, no commitments until her sister's drowning drags her back to the town she left 15 years ago. Convinced her sister's death was no accident, Hatch partners with the local sheriff, Dalton Savage, to uncover the truth. Every answer unlocks another question, and as the investigation begins to unravel, Hatch and Savage find their lives on the line. Hatch is forced to use her special set of skills, forged on the field of combat, to learn the truth about her sisters and bring those responsible to justice. Now, that is actually more complicated than the book itself was. And it was actually her twin sister that was killed, so there's an added level of creepiness, I guess, to the factor that her sister that was killed had two young children, like I think they were like 6 and 8, and so now that she's back and they see her, it's kind of weird for them because she looks just like their mom, so there's this kind of strange vibe the whole time you get from that. I really wanted to like this book. When I read the description, I just pretty much got it off of that. And it said there'd been whatever million selling copies of this, and I read it on Kindle. That's why you're seeing this printed out on a piece of paper. That's my unlimited technology budget right there at work. That's technical wizardry. So I wanted you to be able to see something instead of just having to look at me the whole time. I really wanted to like this book. There was just too many issues. It starts out, and the whole first chapter is about two meth dealers and users that are out doing something to do with meth. I'm not entirely certain because it seemed to presuppose you knew a little bit about meth making, which I don't. And they find the body floating or drifting, hence the title, towards the side of the lake that they're at. And you learn a little bit of their backstory and how they got to be there and how they met and prison and all this stuff. And then you never see them again. So the whole first chapter was just really a waste because the whole thing was the plot of finding the sister, and they call it in anonymously. And you could have just started with that they got an anonymous call from the lake, and that would have settled it in about one sentence. You never see those guys again, not that you'd want to, but it was really, it just didn't make any sense as to why there was so much time given to these people. The characters are pretty much stock characters. There's little fleshing out of who they are. The description that I read you off of Amazon pretty much gives you the same description you'd get in the book. Any twists and turns are telegraphed. Like they have this little side story where I don't feel bad. I'm not going to ruin anything because I'm not recommending you read this anyway. But like the nephew of the main character is in a karate class and he's pretty good. So you know that his karate is going to come into play sometime later to help save the day. And it does. And just all these little things like that. And you see them coming a mile away. The plot is cut and dry. It's a standard mystery, but it's not really that mysterious. The description said that every answer unlocks a new question. Well, there's not a lot of answers, and there's not a lot of questions. It just kind of goes along and assumes that you're okay with the generic plot, and doesn't really go into a whole lot more detail than what that description did. It's easy figure out what will happen before it does. Rachel Hatch is a stock character. uh, which has room to grow. She was too thin a character in the book, but she does start to grow a little bit towards the end as a character. You get a little bit more insight into her. So I will say that. Uh, I think that with some more storytelling involved, that she could be a really interesting character because, I mean, her basic background is, you know, kind of sets her up almost as a female Rambo or something. And she, but that never comes into play really in the book. She's never really tested. I mean, there's a couple incidents of shooting and a couple standoffs, but there's really not that much action in here. And you get the impression that she could really outdo herself both with shooting and hand-to-hand combat and uh, all this military training that she had, but she doesn't have to put any of it to use. So I didn't see the point that you could have put anybody in this and they would have asked about the same questions that she did. And I just didn't see it come through. They keep repeating the word drift and drifter and drifting to come back to the title. We get it. We get the title. We get that she's a drifter. She goes from Rachel Hatch. She goes from place to place. She's a drifter. The sheriff was somewhat of a drifter himself. Uh, the people that killed, well, I don't want to go that far, but everybody in it has a little bit of drifting, whether it's just the body drifting to the shore or they'll describe something as drifting and throughout, and it's like, you know, we get it. You don't have to point it out every 3 chapters. Drift is the title. We know it's a theme, the only theme really that there is, and they kind of hit you over the head with it. My main issue was with the prose, which is the fact it was cut and dry, much like the plot. She did this, he did that, this happened, then that happened, and so on. It just was really boring prose. I like prose that gets to the point, but you got to give me something. And it really just was just boring. It only took me 2 settings to read it. So, I mean, I did get through it, but it's because there just wasn't much there. I really wanted there to be more because, like I said, it would have been an interesting story. I mean, the plot is pretty basic, but it could have been interesting because of the characters. Because the characters they set up are, like I said, kind of stock characters, but they never really flesh them out. And that's really why this novel kind of falls flat for me. The prose is too simple, and the characters just don't get fleshed out enough. I hate bad-mouthing a book. I really do. And I try to be positive, but this book just didn't make the cut. I hate to be negative about anyone's book because I know it takes a lot to write a book. I wish I had the ability to write a book. I did teach college English for 15 years, so I know a little bit about editing and about writing because I've read so much of it and graded so much of it, but this just doesn't make the cut. I'm sorry. I really wish that it would have. I've got 2 more books in the series already because I bought a 3-book set on Kindle. So I had this one and 2 others. I can't remember what the other ones are called. I may give at least the second one a shot at some point to see if they flesh out the characters any. I really would like to see that because, like I said, this does have potential to be good. And I do, I can see myself reading more of this series if they were to put a little bit more into the characters, because they just didn't get enough in this. Now, I want to try to end that on a positive note, that there is a lot of room to grow in this. I don't think it was these guys' first novel. They've got a couple other series too. L.T. Ryan does. I haven't read any of the others yet, but based on this one, I'm not exactly chomping on the bit to get to another one, but it's possible. I've already got the next two, so I may check out at least the next one to see if it gets any better. But there is room to grow. I do think there is some saving graces for the characters if they would just flesh them out a little bit more. But overall, I have to say Drift is something that I just drift away from. So thanks for checking out my channel this week, and I will see you guys next week.